I just advance? Is that how that works? Okay. Okay, so before we move too far along into the program, I would like to bring up some heat precautions. We're having August and June, especially next week, and we want you all to be extremely safe and cautious when you're out there working in the gardens. I'm going to state the obvious, but please make sure that you hydrate before you get out into the heat, not just while you're out there working. Drink at least 8 hours of water every 15 to 20 minutes. Work with a buddy. If something happens, we want you to get immediate attention, and that can't happen if you don't have somebody else who's working beside you. Take breaks in the shade, preferably air conditioning. Even go to your car and turn on the air conditioning for a little while if you need to cool off. Wear lightweight clothing in light colors that can reflect the heat. Also, if you have UV protection on your clothing, that would be ideal. I know Denise has been selling some of that at the Master Gardener meetings. Perfect time to pick up some of that. Use sunscreen, wear a wide brim hat, wear sunglasses, closed-toed shoes, and if possible, work with your project leader to adjust the hours so you're not out there in the heat of the day. Maybe move it up an hour or two in the mornings compared to when you might work in the winter time. So we want you to be safe out there. We don't want anyone to get hurt. And if you have any suggestions on how we can improve our work environment, please send those off to Chris. Thank you. The other thing I want to mention too is that Chris is going to be working with the project leaders to fan out some new guidelines for working in the heat. So you can expect those to come down through the project leaders into your program. So stay tuned for that. We're going to switch up the agenda. Katarina's going to talk after me now. Okay, we had 2 Taste of the Gardens in June. One was at Ruby Young Elementary, and I saw Patty here. Patty, can you stand? There you are. Okay, Patty is, I don't know how she does it. She has this enormous garden in South Dallas, very little shade, couple of structures. She's out there mostly by herself. She does get help from one person, and it's just incredible what she does. And I know that Patty could use some more help. So we really appreciate all the folks who came out. As you can see, we had a crew of about, I want to say 9 that came out. Patty could definitely use some more people. If you would like to try out a new adventure, contact her, and I'm sure that she will welcome you to her garden. Next, we have the White Rock Bathhouse Pollinator Garden. I know Janet could not make it today, but we had a large crowd come out for that one. We worked in the circular garden in the front of the bathhouse. Janet gave us a nice history of the pollinator garden there. And we also took a tour of the gardens in the back of the house. So we're hoping to get some more folks out there, maybe not this many all at once, but we were super excited to have a crowd come out, teach them about native plants, pollinator plants, and what we can do to support the ecosystem around us. So if you are interested in volunteering at the bathhouse, please reach out to Janet D. Smith. Coming up, we have Anne Frank Elementary, and Sheila Spotswood is the project leader at that location. It will be Saturday, July 8th. This will be a little earlier in the morning because of the heat, and we'd like you to take all those heat precautions that I just mentioned earlier so that we don't have any incidents during that Taste of the Garden. But Sheila would love to have your support out there and introduce you to her lovely garden. It has several features. It has a gazebo pond, raised vegetable beds, herb garden, desert garden, a shade garden, compost bins, and a certified monarch way station. I love how those are becoming more popular. Okay, we have 2 Making a Difference awards today. The first goes to Don Heberlin. Don, are you here? Now I'll just read a quick bio here. Don has been a member of Dallas County Master Gardener since 2021. He volunteers at Raincatcher's Garden and is a member of the vegetable team. He takes produce to the North Dallas Shared Ministries. He participates in the annual plant sale, doing odd jobs and whatever is asked of him. And Don had once made a statement that he feels great about the Texas A&M AgriLife Master Gardener program and having the training and experience to answer questions from visitors with confidence. Don is committed, dedicated, enthusiastic, and has a strong work ethic. So let's, he's not here, but he might view the recording, so let's give a round of applause to Don. Okay, and the other recipient today is here, and this is Mark Jones. Mark, do you want to come up? Okay, Mark has been a Master Gardener since 2017, and as of February of this year, he has earned 2,500 hours. That's pretty impressive.
Thank you.
You have 10,000 at the end of your stint?
I'm trying to get 4 by next year.
You're pretty well on that road. Okay, Mark volunteers at Raincatcher's Garden, Lakewood Elementary, Temple Emmanuel, and he also serves on the Budget Committee. And many of you may not know this, but Mark is our procurement director, and he is currently working to fan out new procedures to the projects so that we can save some money for the association and make it easier to get the items that you need for your projects. Mark shares his knowledge readily with those who seek it, or even maybe there's some who don't seek it, but you see a need to. Mark assists with planting, amending soil, composting, and mulching. A great communicator. We love how you share your best practices with us and you promote collaboration between the projects. Thank you very much, Mark. And here is your certificate. Thank you. Okay. Next, of the Share the Love table you all know about. Katerina, are you here? I thought I heard her. Okay. Oh, is she literally walking in? Okay. And also, I would like to remind everyone to wear your badge when you're at any Master Gardener event. And if you could please take a piece of tape, write your emergency contact info on the back of your badge with a phone number, and if you have any allergies or other pertinent information, please keep that with you at all times. I believe that's it for my presentation. Just in time, Katerina. All right, let me back up to the beginning of her presentation. Oh, thank you. It's working. Here's Katerina.
All right.
Thank you.
Let me put my things down.
Can I get you anything?
Some water or something? No, I'm good, thank you. All right. Okay. Hello, everyone. Hello. Sorry, I'm running late. Okay, so just forward here. Okay, that's good. Okay, back. All right, let me take a breath. Good morning. How is everybody doing? Great to meet you in this venue. Thank you so much, Brian Parman. I don't know where you are. Are you here? I don't see a hand. No? Okay, well, thank you so much to CC Young for hosting us here, I think this month and next month, correct? Yeah? Okay. How are the strawberries? Yes? Okay. Did I miss all of them? Just save me some? All righty. Not too much for me, but I just did want to touch on a couple of topics. The first one is that I wanted to report that we already have 4 individuals who have completed their hours that were interns this year. And so those individuals are Michael Bloom, Valerie Reese, Janice Pruitt, and Tina Pilgrim. So we are super excited. This is a cohort that is enthusiastic, energetic. We are really appreciating and enjoying them. So congratulations to them. I think that we have some future with them. The next thing I wanted to let you know is this past Tuesday, we were invited to go to the Commissioner's Court, and this was because they had decided to put out a resolution because June is fruit and vegetable month, and so they were acknowledging this. And in that acknowledgement, AgriLife and also the Master Gardeners are mentioned and acknowledged. And so I just wanted to make sure that each one of our gardens who donates vegetables and fruit will get one of these. So I requested, I believe it's 4. If I'm wrong, then I'll have to double check with the people that are on top of all of that. But I want to make sure that you know that you're not only appreciated by AgriLife Extension, but by Dallas County and the 4 commissioners, and of course the judge, but he was absent. Anyway, it was my very first time at a working political event, if you will. So my legs were shaking. One of your own, Glenn McGee, was there. I don't know if you're here, Glenn, but thank you so much for representing Master Gardener Program. I see you back there. Thank you so much. And yeah, so this is the kind of thing that we have to do with, through what they call interpretation, just to make sure that officials out there know what you are all doing for the citizens of Dallas. So thank you so much. And again, I will be handing those resolutions to you, maybe Monica or to Mark or Neil, whomever is in touch with the gardens that do donate vegetables. So the next thing I wanted to point out is that I've been adding some what we're calling agent volunteer opportunities that have been approved. That would be me. I'm approving them. And the way I'm seeing things right now is that, to make sure that we get these beautiful landscapes and the mental health and the physical health and the environmental stewardship spread out across Dallas. I'm seeing that our Master Gardener School is kind of our university, right? And then our projects are our labs, where we are going and getting more practice with what we learned during our intern year. And of course, there's the camaraderie, the social interaction. But I don't want to stop it there. I don't want to keep the scientists at the university, if you will. I want to ask the scientists to leave and go out into the community. So these approved opportunities, which I am starting again to approve more of them, are our way to expand the horticultural education and service to all of the Dallas County area. So last night, and I'm sorry that Sue, that I turned in my slides so late, but I had to stop basically. So if you see right now this map, this is a map of our projects. But as we start to add the volunteer opportunities, and again, this is just maybe a 3rd or a 4th. I stopped because I knew that I needed to send the slides. This would be a lot more populated if I would have continued. But I'm excited about this direction that we're taking, because that's exactly the mission that we have in Extension, is to spread the word, spread the service, spread the education. And so I'm going to work with Cynthia and with Alexa to get this list with contact information on the website, so you'll all be able to see it. And again, it's just a way to not only give a man a fish, but to teach him how to fish. So we need to make sure that we stay on track on this, and I hope that you all support me with that. I think this is the end of my slide, and then I have one more thing that is not on the slide, and sorry if I'm consuming too much time. I'm not sure how we are on time, but the last thing I wanted to do is to acknowledge a very special person. This person is going to have her last week, next week, as in her role of Master Gardener Coordinator. And this person pretty much gave up her life. She put her life on hold to ensure that I was successful during my first year as an agent. This person's organizational skills and her passion for excellence and her peachy attitude, I benefited from all of those this first year. And I'm going to miss her tremendously, and it's going to be very, very hard to replace her. But still, she's a volunteer, and so she wants to move on with her life, and that is totally understandable. So help me by thanking, and on behalf of AgriLife Extension and the Master Gardener Program, Fern Brown. Thank you so much. know she was coming today. I heard at the last minute, so there are no signatures. I was going to give this to her next week, and then she told me she was coming. I was like, oh my gosh. So, anyway, thank you so much, Martin. I appreciate it. All right. All right. That's it for me. Thank you for your time. And I'm sorry I was late.
Don Heberlin, come on up. It's like the Price is Right here. We have the certificate of appreciation. So, oh, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And we are very grateful of all the work that you do for the Master Gardeners.
It's all blood, sweat, and tears. Learns from some great people, so.
Thank you. Next, we have the project spotlight, and Sheila's going to give us some information here. This one's forward, this one's reverse. Okay. And I think there's a pointer on that.
I don't need it.
Oh, okay.
All right. Can you hear me? All right, I'll stand in front of this. For short people? I don't know. How's that? Okay. I'm Sheila Spotswood, and I'm going to try to do this real quick. Just do the project spotlight for today, which is Anne Frank. That is not it. Okay, Anne Frank Elementary School. That's just a picture of our gazebo classroom. This was taken back at the time of the garden tour. So we really didn't have much in bloom yet at the time of the tour. Okay, first a little bit about the school. The school is in far north Dallas. It's near Beltline and the toll road, so it's real convenient if you're coming from other areas. It is the largest elementary school in Dallas. There's over 1,100 students, and that's pre-K through 5th grade. They're almost all, almost every single one are apartment dwellers. And you think of that area as being a lot wealthier than it is, but that little pocket is not. It's a very diverse population. There's more than 20 languages spoken by the kids there. It's a dual English, Spanish-English school. They have ESL classes for the parents. And it's a very highly transient population. The kids move a lot, and there's almost no parent involvement there. So it's different than some of the other schools as far as their resources. Okay, too many words here, but the garden itself is old. It was established by grants that the teachers got when the school was first started in 1997. And the Master Gardeners now have been there about 10 years. And I'll show you pictures, but it really is like a little oasis of nature in the middle of this pretty bare schoolyard. We were on the spring garden tour because of the diversity of the things we've got there. It is maintained by Master Gardeners. The teachers use the garden a lot, but they really don't help. We do have a few parents that come just off and on. We've had some years with good parent involvement. Other years, like the last couple of years, have been almost none. There's students that walk over. Right now we've got some elementary students that just walk over when we're there, and they come help us because they're out for the summer. There are other gardeners, though, other volunteers that help, so it's not just us. Parish Episcopal School sends their classes over during the day. United to Learn sends people out to volunteer, and occasionally there's corporate groups that come. It's a really good place to volunteer. You can learn about anything there. We have, I'll show you, but we've got the pollinator gardens, compost bins, vegetable beds. We are a certified Monarch way station, and if that guy's still in here that was talking about getting certified here, it's really easy. Just put in a few milkweed plants and you can do it. Pay the $40 or something for the sign. We have a gazebo classroom and some garden art, a lot of native plants. Most of what we have is native plants. The purpose of the garden, according to the school, is to help the students gain an understanding of ecosystems, an appreciation for food origins and nutrition, knowledge of plant and animal life cycles. It's really important that they have this because, as I said, in the apartments, many of them lack access to other gardens and nature. The classes rotate coming out for lessons with their teachers, and they can sign up on the days that we're there volunteering to come out with us for assistance or just to have us tour them around or something. The lessons can be on almost any topic, as with pretty much any school garden. You think of biology and plants and those sciences, but you can do math, reading, languages, anything out in a garden. And this year we're making some big changes. We're going to have a lot of class involvement without us. And then when we're there volunteering, we're going to have a lot of classes come out too. Our vegetable beds are these raised concrete blocks. They're pretty small for the size of the school, but we're limited not only by the space in the garden, but by the sun. It's basically walled in by 3 two-story brick walls. So we have morning sun on one side, afternoon sun on one side, and then part of it's a south wall, and we have no sun most of the year. But we can still have something growing at any time. Anytime kids are there, any time of the year, there's something you can taste, even if it's just herbs. And we have been donating food the last year or so. We didn't really have, once COVID started, the classes just stopped coming, and we haven't really gotten back into it on a good rotation yet. So there were no classes owning the beds, and we just had them taste things when they were there, and then we take the rest and we donate it to a local food bank affiliate, which is right up the street. And we are certified Monarch Way Station. Here's some of our milkweeds. We've got about 5 different kinds of milkweed there right now, and then some of the monarch caterpillars there in the middle. We have a lot of pollinator-friendly plants, a lot of flowers around that gazebo. It's about a 5, maybe 6 foot wide bed, so there's a lot of flowers there. Mostly low water, low maintenance, native, but still maintenance. Some of our pollinators, we've got passion flower vine, and there's our Gulf fritillary on the left, and swallowtails and monarchs, and the one at the bottom right was really neat. When I first saw that, I didn't have a clue, and it's one of the sphinx moths or hummingbird moths. And when you see one, even if you don't know what it is, you know it's something. Got to go look that up. We have a little corner we call our desert garden with cactus and agave and all these 4-nerve daisies, red yucca. The cactus, we had one of the kindergarten teachers came out this year when we had a whole lot of new spring growth and cut off some of the petals, peeled it right there in the garden, and brought some lime juice and I forgot, paprika or something, and the kids, the kindergarten kids would all taste it. It was pretty good. And then we do have a lot of shade, but this one area there on the right side is our really shady nook. That's enclosed, it's a little nook, which is walled off. So we've got a Japanese maple back there, and then some natives out front, frostweed and Turk's cap. We do have a pond, which is pretty different for a school garden, with fish and water lilies. And no one else takes care of that either, so we do that. But it's for a pond, it's really low maintenance. We don't even have filtration or UV light or some of the things people would say you have to have, and it works fine. But it's really good for the kids because they can come out and have a complete lesson on a food chain or an ecosystem with that one pond there. We have art. The shed there on the right was donated, and then one of the students' grandparents, who is a local artist, painted that, and she painted the rain barrels that were in the first slide in front of the gazebo. The Pegasus was donated by a local arts council. It's from the Pegasus Project some years back in Dallas. And at the end it is a good place to volunteer. We do very well with a very small core of people keeping it up, but anyone else who wants to come help, we'd love it. We can always use more help. This year, with classes starting to come back out again a lot, we could really use people who like to work with the kids too. You don't have to formally give lessons, just be able to help divide them into groups and we could tell you what to do. We do meet Tuesdays year-round, with or without students, just for gardening, once a month on the second Saturday of each month. And some of those, especially the Saturdays, are with students or parents or other volunteers. They are posted on the volunteer calendar on the Master Gardener website. If you go look right after this, I do have to go in and add in the rest of the summer, because I think I did it only through June. And my information's on there too. Contact me anytime if you have questions or want to schedule coming or anything. And we are on, but this was already mentioned, the Taste of the Gardens coming up in July. And it's going to be hot, but we'll just do our best. If we have to leave early, that's okay. But we've been out working in the heat, and it's been okay. And we do have shade. So it makes it harder for vegetables, but it's good for gardening. And that's it, I think. Yep.
Hi, I'm Sue. I try and arrange all these meetings. Thanks so much for coming. It's great to see such a good turnout. I want to introduce Carol Clark, who's our main speaker today, from the Native Plant Society of Texas. I always get that mixed up. And I was particularly drawn to her talk because it incorporates two of my favorite things, so shopping and plants. I just wanted to say, I meant to mention as people came in, Carol has very kindly given us a really extensive handout, but last time my printer broke. That was my excuse for not printing them out, but it seemed to work. So I've got a sign-up sheet at the entrance. If you could put your email address, if you would like me to email you the list, and there's also a book list as well, and it's out there to have a look to see. So thanks, Carol, and welcome.
Okay, let's see if this is on. Oh, it is now. Hi, I'm Carol Clark. I am from the Native Plant Society of Texas. I'm also a Texas Master Naturalist with the Blackland Prairie Chapter, and I'm a Monarch Watch Conservation Specialist with Monarch Watch. And so I actually had the privilege of giving a grant to that Anne Frank Elementary Garden through the Native Plant Society of Texas. And it's really great to see how well that's doing. And I think those were queen caterpillars, by the way, not the monarchs, but the very first cousin of monarchs, so real close. And today we're going to talk about just enough Latin to go plant shopping. Let's see if I can figure out how the remote works. It's a little different. That is it. Okay. So how did this talk even come about? Well, there's a plant sale that I work at every year, and I've done this for years and years, and I kept seeing the same words popping up on these formal botanical names on the plant tags. And I started to think, what does that mean? Why is this word there? And hey, look, it's on this red-flowered plant and that red-flowered plant and that red-flowered plant. So I started looking into some of these things, and what I found out is that these formal botanical names are just full of good information. And that information can help you a lot in your gardening life. Plus, it turns out it's a lot of fun. And you're just going to walk around making new connections in your garden. It's a little bit like when you're a baby gardener, you just want to put some color in your yard. And you garden for a few years, and then you realize, I could plant something for hummingbirds and have this additional level of enjoyment, or I could plant for butterflies and have another level of enjoyment. It's a whole different level of enjoyment in your gardening life. So let's see. My goal is not, absolutely not, to make you an instant expert in botanical nomenclature. It takes a long time to get pretty fluent with that stuff, and it's not necessary. My goal is also not to teach you to speak these words. And there are really good reasons for that. There are a couple competing systems of pronunciation. So think about that. If you have 3 different systems of pronunciation and you start very rigorously to follow this one way of doing things, you're going to sound wrong to 2/3 of the people most of the time anyway. And so there's literally no way to win that game. And so my plan is I'm going to butcher them intentionally. I'll just tell you that right now. And we're going to pronounce them in a way that you'll understand how they're written. And you'll be able to read those. And so it's more understanding them when you see them in print is my goal. And to do that, we're going to introduce enough root words and conventions to get you started picking these names apart and seeing what they're like. And hopefully enough to avoid some plant buying disasters, because nobody ever has enough plant money. Oops, that went backwards. Okay, no, I have this background that's not mine in the slideshow. Does anybody know how that happened? No, that background's not mine. So let's see if the next slide works well. But I want to tell you, in each species, there is a 2-word name. And the first one is the genus. It is never capitalized. And the second one is the species. It is always capitalized. And the second one, I'm already messing up. The background has me squirreled out here. And the second one is never capitalized, even if it refers to a person or a proper place or some kind of proper noun. It's never capitalized. So let's see what happens on the next slide. Oh, all right. It's working better. So some of the ways, and I want to go back to and say, oh, that doesn't go back. Here we go. Let's see. And I feel like there's something missing there. Anyway, these names are Latinized binomials. They are not true Latin. Over 80% of the genus names and 30% of the species names come from languages other than Latin or Greek. Some of the roots are also Greek. And so with that pronunciation game again, there's no way to win. You literally have to know if Mr. Johnson, that something is named after, is from England or from Sweden, because you're also supposed to pronounce these honorary names with the pronunciation that the person they're named after would use on their own name. So you really don't know, if it's Johnson or Johnson or whatever. So anyway, moving on. We have a lot of plants in Texas named in people's honor because there were some great botanical explorers in Texas. So we have Callilophus drummondianus, which is named after Mr. Drummond. And there's also Hartwigs and Berlander's Callilophus. So we have Callilophus hartwigii and Callilophus berlandieri too. Here's another example where that honorific name honoring somebody has been used as the first name, Berlandiera texana. This means, it's named after Mr. Berlandier, and it was found in Texas. The type specimen came from Texas. Now, these honorary names cut both ways. Sometimes they've been used as insults. And this is part of the fun of understanding some of the Latin names. You can walk by your plant and know that funny story that lies in the name. There was a pair of botanically minded brothers in Europe at one time, and one of them was a really nice guy, and everybody liked this guy. And the other one was kind of a stinker. Nobody liked the second one. So a third botanist who had the opportunity to name some plants named, and they were in the same genus, similar plants that were related, he named the one with the nice big flowers for the nice brother. And he named the one with the small, insignificant flowers for the other one. Maximilian sunflower is another one of those that has an honorific name, named after Prince Maximilian. And that's also one of the most commonly misspelled names of anything. Oh, I flipped 2 slides. Let's see. Okay, going forward. And some of our giants of Texas botany are listed here. Drummond, Berlandier, Romer, Gregg, Wright, Linheimer, Reverchon. Reverchon actually did a lot of collecting locally here in Dallas, so you may see his name attached to a lot of things. So why do we want to do this at all? Well, we touched on a few things, but we need to avoid confusion when we're trying to communicate with each other. And you're going to find that some common names refer to lots and lots of plants. And so you're talking about one plant, your friend's actually talking about a different plant when you're trying to have this conversation. And then also that some plants have a lot of different common names for the same plant. So it's very difficult to communicate unless you can settle on one name. And these formal names are designed to be the name for that plant and nothing else. It can help you avoid costly mistakes where you put the right plant in the right place. I know you're all familiar with that concept, right? But there are hidden clues in these formal names about the habitats and the habits of these plants. And then I think we covered this enjoyment. It's actually kind of a new source of fun in your gardening life, and it's free. So let's talk about buttercups. If you look up buttercups, you're going to pull up about 30 different species that are all called buttercups. When I got to Houston as a college student, my friend was talking about the buttercups on the roadside, and I thought, there are no buttercups on that roadside. There's just these pink things. And, you know, this was his buttercup. And I said, no. These are buttercups. Yeah. I grew up in New Jersey. These are buttercups. And you know what? We're both right. Those are local common names. And I could call these Susan, and it would be just as accurate. These common names really mean pretty much nothing. These are both camphor weeds. Do they look alike? No, they do not. These are all bluebells. We've got Spanish bluebells, Virginia bluebells, and Texas bluebells. This tree has a lot of common names. You've seen it in your landscapes around town at Bodark, horseapple, hedge apple, Osage orange, all different common names for the same tree. So it's hard to make yourself understood when you're using these names. On the other hand, Gumbamelia has 13 common names. And so you could go all around trying to tell somebody which tree you're talking about in common names. And none of these are super preferred. You'll hear a lot of different names, even locally, for this tree. So only this formal name keeps this tree from having an identity crisis. That's the one that really matters. My slides aren't operating especially well. There's all these weird overlaps, so that's just something in the system. I don't know. They looked fine at home. Anyway, moonflowers. Have you ever been party to an internet argument about moonflowers? Oh my. See, a lot of you are laughing. You have been. And I'll have people saying like, no, it's a vine. And others are like, you're crazy. It's a shrub. And the problem is they're talking about completely different plants. They're all called moonflowers. So we've got one here that is vine, the pomea up there, morning glory type thing. We've got one that is a shrub, the datura, and we've got one that is a succulent cactus type plant as well. And so very different growth forms, very different habits and needs. They're all called moonflower. And so it's to avoid that confusion. And next we're going to see about some of these mistakes that you could make and avoid. How about winged loosestrife? It's purple and it's a loosestrife, but it is not the invasive purple loosestrife. So you could be telling somebody, you know, I've got this loosestrife. Yeah, it's purple. And you might think you have this horrible invasive plant when what you actually had was the nice native. You don't want to be ripping that out, right? So this is the one you've got to watch for. The other one is just fine and normal here. All right, how about origins? Origins can give you a lot of clues as to how a plant will behave. So we've got all these different words, and a lot of these are going to sound like words that you already know. So we have things like occidentalis means western. Orientalis means eastern, like the Orient Express, right? Borealis, have you ever heard of the aurora borealis? Where does it happen? Way up north, right? And so borealis does mean northern. Australis might be confusing. That sounds like it means it came from Australia, but it really means it comes from the south. Californica, Virginica, Texana, Mexicana, all of these could have slightly different endings. They could be us, a at the end, and that's all fine. I just randomly put them up on the slide in no particular sensible order because those endings change depending on the genus name. So Latin is one of those languages where things have to match on the ends, depending on the gender and so forth. So Virginica, Virginicus, both came from Virginia, or the type specimen was found in Virginia. Mexicana, Japonica, all of these are self-explanatory, but they give you clues. If it is Caria illinoisensis, which is our pecan tree, you know that thing's going to be cold hardy here, right? It grows in Illinois, for Pete's sake. Yeah, all right. And all of these the slides that have a lot of the weight on them, that's what you're getting as handouts, okay? Some examples. Here's Baptisia australis. I really didn't know this was a native plant when I moved here. I thought it was from Australia. So it's not. It's a local native in Collin and Dallas County. Beautiful plant. Japanese privet, Ligustrum japonicum. It's right there in the name. If you ever wondered if this thing that's taking over the woodlands is native or not, no, it's not. Ligustrum sinense. This is a Chinese privet. And have you ever heard of the Sino-Russian Wars and things like that? This means Asian, Chinese. Carolina buckthorn, Frangula caroliniana. The type specimen was collected and described in North Carolina or South Carolina. Here's a Mexican plum, Prunus mexicana. So this would tell you the thing is probably heat tolerant enough to do well in Dallas, right? And it is. How about colors? If you're planning a themed garden, I know master gardeners love to do that kind of stuff, you want to get the right color. And so there are a lot of plants that have different color forms or different colors for different species within that genus. So we've got a few that mean white or light. There's alba and leuco. And there are some lots that mean darker too. Negra is one of those. Several that mean red or pink. Rubra, like rubies. Coccinea or coccinea. I'm not going to fight with you about how to pronounce that, right? But it does mean red, like cochineal dye is red. How about a rosé wine? What color is that? Pink, right. So rosea means pink. And lutea, flava, sulfurea, they all mean yellow. That element, sulfur, that's a bright yellow, isn't it? Yeah. Aurea means gold. The symbol, the chemical symbol for gold is AU, aurea. And then we have some for blue. There's cerulean. Green is interesting. There's viridis and viridum and so forth for green. And atropurpurea and purpurea. When you add the prefix atro to something, it means very or deep. So purpurea means purple. Atropurpurea means very purple or deep purple. Atrorubens means deep red in the same way. And you know, I had a Clevia miniata for years, and I never wondered what miniata meant. It means red striped with yellow or crimson streaked with yellow. So there are combination words for colors as well. I'm going to pick up this book if I can. Okay, that might be a losing battle. This is Stern's Botanical Latin. And it's a big fat book, but in the center page here, we can pass it around. You want to pass it around? There is a 2-page spread of teeny tiny print of this big flow chart of colors. There are dozens and dozens of color names. So this is just a little bit of some that you'll see often here in Texas. Canescence is one of my favorites. That actually means becoming silver with age, like an aging wolf. So can you picture that? A silvery foliage. Argenta also means silver. Let's see if I can find my remote again. Here we go. So a few examples. Lonicera albiflora, white-flowered honeysuckle, right? This is not going to be red or pink or yellow. It's a white-flowered honeysuckle. Blackfoot daisy. This has quite a cool name. So mel, like melanin in your skin, is a word for dark. Podium means feet, so black foot right there. And leucanthum. Leuca was the root for white, right? Anthem is for flower. So we've got the Blackfoot white flowered plant right there in the name, Blackfoot daisy. Lonicera sempervirens F. sulfurea, form sulfurea. So this is a plant that normally has red blossoms, but it comes in a form that has yellow blossoms. So this additional information, F. sulfurea, tells you this is the yellow flowered version of this plant. So that's really useful. If you meant to get the red, you really didn't want the white or the yellow and vice versa. And that, I keep going forward when I mean to go back, and I shouldn't ever have to go back, right? But that sempervirens. Virens was a word for green. Semper means always, like the Marines say, semper fi, right? Always faithful. So this means evergreen, and we'll give you that information right there in the name as well. Golden groundsel, Pachyra aurea. Aurea for gold, and it surely is gold. Ribes aureum, the golden buffalo currant. And here were a couple that got my attention at the plant sale all those years ago. Salvia coccinea, Stachys coccinea, however you would like to say that. It's okay with me, as long as you can read it. Morus rubra, red like rubies, right? It has that red fruit. It certainly stains red even when it gets purple. And standing cypress, Ipomopsis rubra, too. Pitcher sage, Salvia azurea, blue, like the azure blue sea. Echinacea purpurea, there's that purple. Remember, atropurpurea means deep purple. And there it is, Euonymus atropurpureus, the deep purple flowered wahoo. Everybody likes wahoo just because it's fun to say the name. Green milkweed, its Latin name really translates directly to the milkweed that's green. And so I like to call this one green milkweed. Other people have other common names for it, which it really, in my job as a monarch watch conservation specialist, this is a huge point of confusion because there are too many common names for the green milkweed. But the Latin name translates directly to green milkweed. So I prefer that. The lead plant, Amorphocanescens. This is one of those that turns silver as it ages, like a wolf. Canis lupus is the wolf. Silver ponyfoot, Dichondra argentea. Argentea is the root for silver. Okay, how about timing? This is super important for gardeners because you're trying to have your garden look good all the time, right? So you want to know, when do things bloom? When are they going to be blooming and looking their best? So these timing things are important. What do bears do in the winter? They hibernate. So look at that first one, Hibernalis, of the winter. This thing would be blooming in the winter most likely. Vernalis, you may have heard of vernal pools, little puddles of water that are just out in the spring when it's rainy. Vernalis means of the spring. Excuse me. Here in Texas, estivalis might be one of your more important words to look for. This is something that's going to bloom in the heat of the summer. And that for us can be a challenge sometimes, right? Serotina means late flowering, and that's not necessarily that it blooms in the fall, but it blooms later than other things in its genus. So that's what that's about. Praecox means it flowers earlier than most of the things in its genus or that are related to it. Annua means annual, perennis means perennial, and sempervirens, we already touched on that, means evergreen. Thank you. Okay, so virens also means evergreen sometimes. Nocturna means night blooming, and diurna means day blooming, just like a nocturnal animal would be out at night, right? You can expect this to bloom at night. And I know that night gardens have become a big thing with lots of people working. Here are some examples. That Lonicera sempervirens, and this is the not yellow form. We already saw the yellow form. A Rus virens, the evergreen sumac. Night blooming false yucca, Hesperaloe nocturna. It's right there in the name, and this thing is magnificently scented at night. So if you're looking for a scent garden, blooms at night, when you have the time and the leisure to sit on the patio, here's your plant. Wild cherry, Prunus serotina, and that is one that blooms later than the other prunes and plums and cherries. Gaillardia estivalis, remember I said estivalis was of the summer? Well, this one really does bloom in July and August. Up on my dry, rocky farm, these pollinators are using this all summer. It's just about the only thing that has, I guess, the bravery to bloom in the Texas heat up there in the middle of the summer. So we have 3 different Spiranthes orchids that are some of our local Spiranthes orchids. And we have Spiranthes cernua. Cernua means drooping. We have Spiranthes magnacamporum. So that has to do with being out in the field. And then we have Spiranthes vernalis. Which one of these blooms in the spring? The vernalis. The other 2 bloom in the fall. Late flowering bone set. Here's Eupatorium serotinum. Really nice plant. A little bit rambunctious though. How about forms? Something that's labeled arboreum. That is tree-like. Remember Arbor Day? What do? They give away trees. It's about trees. Dendron is another root for tree, while fruticose and frutescens refer to being shrub-like. Pendula means weeping, like a pendulum on a clock, right? A lot of these, when you start looking at them, sound like something you already know about. We've got prostrata, lying down. Some genus or other will have plants that are upright and others that lie flat, and that's an important difference for a gardener to understand. Decumbens means it kind of lies flat and then pops up, and the flower heads are on the end of those things that pop up. So it sort of does both. Rhizomatosa, oh my goodness, is that one important? So sometimes you've got this area you want to cover very quickly, and this is a good word in that case because that would mean the plant has rhizomes and probably spreads sideways to fill an area and make a colony of itself. But if you're trying to keep this under control with minimum work, that is not your plant. You do not want that plant. Tuberosa has a fleshy tuber or taproot, and that does not necessarily mean it runs sideways. Usually it doesn't. Morpha refers to form or shape, and so amorpha, A is not or without, means shapeless. And so that's kind of an interesting thing too that might catch your eye on a tag. Subfrutescens means it's a low shrub or a subshrub. Humulus means low, and pusillus means small or insignificant. If you're old like me, you might remember the Tumbleweeds cartoons in the paper, and there was this poor little character named Pusillanimous Pup, and his whole deal was he never got any love or attention. Everybody picked on him. So pusillus means small, insignificant, not very important. And scandens means climbing. So if you're looking for a vine, something that has scandens in the name might be a great thing. If you're not looking for a vine, that's not your plant. We have Leucophyllum frutescens. Remember leuco? What was that a root for? White or pale, right? So pale foliage, phyllum refers to leaves, and frutescens, it's the pale foliage shrub. Sure is, isn't it? False indigo, Amorpha fruticosa. Fruticosa means shrub, Amorpha means not shapely. But it really is a sort of a shapeless shrub, but it refers to something in the flower that's hard to see anyway. It's actually kind of a not where that name came from. Helps you remember, though, that this one is a little bit less shapely than some shrubs you'd like. Butterfly weed, Asclepias tuberosa. This will not run all over and form a colony. It has a tuberous root. There it is. That one's been there for at least 20 years. Right there, just that, no more. Pigeonberry, Ravina humilis. This is a low plant. All right, let's go on to, I really don't know what's going on with some of my slides. They're behaving very oddly. Nemoralis means of the woods and groves. You might think that would be a really good plant for park shade. It is. Sylvatica, of the forest. So that one's probably going to demand at least part shade. Rupestris means for rocky places, and rupicola, or rubicola, don't care how you say it again, remember, is found only in rocky places. So it is not going to thrive in your deep, rich black soil or your, very moist beds. Campestris means of the meadows and the fields. Arvensis means of the field and is frequently applied to Old World plants, by the way. So a lot of our little invasive weedy species have the surname Arvensis. Fluvialis means from areas that flood. That sort of sounds. Fluvial, flood. Montanus, from the mountains. Oops, let's see. I'm touching the wrong thing. So here's your twist leaf yucca living in Fredericksburg, and it's living its best life in this rocky soil. See all the rocks on the surface? Rupicola means only from rocky places. Sebacia campestris, this is taken on my farm. I have a little wildlife refuge with lots and lots of plants. And there it is, just sort of covering the meadows up on the farm. Campestris means of the meadows and fields. How about scent? Here's one you want to watch out for sure, right? So aromatica or odora, they mean scented. Odora generally means nicely scented. But then you got a couple of words like fetida and fetidissima. Fetid, yeah. So fetid is just what it sounds like. It smells rotten. And that issima ending, whenever you see that, that means most or the highest of whatever happened before that. So if there's a plant that has fetidissima in its name, that means it is the stinkiest one. All right. And not in a good way for fetida. Suavis means sweet, and so that's sort of the opposite of fetida, if you will. And Gaillardia suavis is a Gaillardia that has no petals. They're really ray flowers, but it has no ray flowers, and it just has this little ball for its bloom. But that bloom is incredibly sweetly scented. It is just highly perfumed. So Gaillardia suavis. Fragrance means smells good. Fragrantissima is the best smelling thing, right? Citriodora smells like citrus fruits. Horrida kind of should have been up there with fetida. I should rearrange these slides. It smells bad. Lemoniae can smell like lemons. And graveolens or graveolens, you'll see that word attached a lot to herbs if you're an herb gardener, because it means it has a heavy, oily scent to it. So let's see some of those real quick. Aromatic sumac could be Rhus trilobata or Rhus aromatica. And some people think it smells great. I find it just kind of pleasantly spicy when you crush the foliage. But there are some places where some of the specimens smell skunky to some people. So aromatic, I think it should be aromatica truly. It's a nice smell. Monarda citriodora, this is the monarda that smells like lemons, and it really, really does. Different monardas have different smells to them. Mexican oregano, Lipia graveolens. And yes, this is heavily scented when you rub that. But there's two more, dill and rue, that have that graveolins ending, and that refers to those strongly scented oils within that plant. All right, now you probably know a lot of these as master gardeners. You've studied flowers and their construction. We've got lots of parts of plants and words that refer to them. So phylum and folia are leaves. Andrus is an anther referring word. Carpus is the fruit, not necessarily the seed, but whatever fruit that plant makes. Caulis, stem. How about cauliflower? What's a cauliflower do? That head that you eat, that's the buds, and they are right up against the stem. So this blooms right on the stem. And then we've got anthus for flower, flora for flower, denta or serrata for tooth, and canthus for thorn. So if you have an acanthus, it has no thorns, right? So anyway, all right, let's see. Or an acanthus has no thorns anyway. That doesn't sound right. I got to think that through. But canthus does refer to thorn. I'll give you a different one that's not up there. Inermis means not armed, so not thorny or sharp. All right, macro, size and number, macro, like macroeconomics, the big picture. Microeconomics is the small picture. Microscope would help you look at small things. And you might have small leaves or small flowers. So if you had a microphylla, we just saw what phylla means. What does that mean? Small leaf, that's right. And macrophylla would be a large leaf, wouldn't it? And those could look very, very different within a genus. Gigantea, that's an obvious one, right? It's huge. And mega is as well. But so is maxima. Exaltata means tall, very tall. Pauci, here's an interesting one. That one means few. So if you have something pauciflora, it means the few-flowered member of that genus. And so that's a good one to know. Not necessarily ugly, though. Grande means large. Parvi means small. So you see parviflora as well, quite a bit in plant names. Poly means several, more than three. Multi means many. So multiflora rose, anybody? Yes, has lots and lots of flowers. Tenuous means thin. Tenuissima means super, super thin. Crassi means thick. So you find this crassifolia, thick-leaved. Angusta means narrow, as in not wide. And lati means broad, the opposite of that. And then you have longi. Obviously sounds like something long, right? So you have longispica, you have longifolia. You can have all these different things that length applies to. And then lots and lots of roots for numbers, but I'm just going to let you look at those real quick. Uno, or uni, mono, bi, tri, quadrupenta, sexta, hexa. And you get a mix of Latin and Greek there. So you might have hepta or, what's the other seven? There were two sevens. I think hepta was a 7 and septa was a 7 too. So one of them's not up there. All right, so this one always cracked me up. There was a place in Frisco where the small median on the street they just put in was full of bur oaks, of all things. And these bur oaks, when they mature, first of all, they're probably not going to live in that median, but they have giant acorns on them that are bigger than golf balls. And so these bur oaks had no choice but to hang over those streets. And once they start producing fruit, it's just going to fall on the cars and break windshields and things like that. So, you know, that city planner, all he needed to know was macrocarpa, means really big seed on this. He needed to know that. Missouri primrose also has a really big fruit around its seed. It's a couple inches, and it has these funny wings all over it, and the seeds are down inside. Wax myrtle Comes in larger and smaller. Here's Miracapusula. That is the small one, right? Small, insignificant pusillus. There are lots of goldenrods, lots of them. But altissima, what does that mean? The tallest one, right? It is the tallest one. That's my front yard. Narrow-leaf coneflower, it's the Echinacea angustifolia. So angusti means narrow, folia is leaf. Oh, and by the way, I didn't back up successfully. Hang on. It kind of means spiky. Have you seen the seed heads on the Echinacea? It's spiky, right? So it's all there in the name. Dwarf pawpaw is Asimina parviflora, and so it doesn't have the big showy flowers or lots of them. I guess it means small, not few. But the giant coneflower, Rudbeckia maxima, that blooms way up over my head. It is a giant version of a Rudbeckia. Salvia macrophylla has big leaves, and this one is the purple-leafed form of that. How about black walnuts? Well, you've got Juglans nigra. Nigra means black, so that's your basic black walnut. But then you have Juglans microcarpa, small fruited walnut. And then you have the Juglans major, the big fruited walnut, or the big black walnut. Hydrangea macrophylla, big fat leaves. But Hydrangea quercifolia refers to the oak-like shape of that leaf. Quercus is the genus for oaks. So it literally says oak leaf right there in its formal name. Shapes. We talked about tenuis, tenuissima, smallest, thinnest, angusti, angustissima. Feels like this is backwards, or maybe some of these got repeated. Acuminata means comes to a point. Mucronata means it ends in a short, stiff point. Late means broad. Stachys or stachia in a spike, arranged in a spike. So you'll see that quite a lot. Pycnostachia means dense spiked. Longiovata and ovalis mean oval-shaped. Of course, cordata, heart-shaped. So you're going to find Ampelopsis cordata, that's the heart-leaf pepper vine, for instance. And not too much else there. Alta and exaltata mean tall. Undulata, there's one we haven't covered that. What does the snake do? It undulates along as it goes. Undulata means it has a wavy something. And that's normally the edges of the leaf that are wavy on a plant that's got undulatum attached to it. And it kind of was spiny. Pendula means weeping. It looks to me like I need to review some of my handouts here. And here's Urinacella tenuissima, the Mexican feathergrass. How many of you have seen this or used this? Probably everybody's seen it on the roadside somewhere, right? George Bush. You take the George Bush tollway. And it has an extremely thin leaf. If it had leaves any thinner, they wouldn't be there. Bluebells, Eustoma exaltatum. It's a tall plant that stands upright. There it is, standing upright out in the wild. This is a native Texas plant that, by the way, was taken to Europe, and Lisianthus, your garden flowers, were developed from this. Desert willow, Chalopsis linearis, linear leaves. Casmanthium latifolium, the inland seos, it has broad leaves for a grass. You have all kinds of descriptions. Hirta and hirsuta, pubescens, lanuginosa, and tomentosa are all words for different kinds of hairs. There are more than 20 words for the kind of hair a plant has. And you'll find all of that stuff in Stern's Botanical Latin if you really wanted to chew that up. But there are much easier books to deal with. That one is a bit of a load. Okay, so we've got cephalo, means shaped like a ball, and that's normally going to be your flowers, maybe your seed heads. Sativa, there's an important word. It means cultivated on purpose. So a lot of your old world plants are going to come with the word sativa attached to them. That's because they've been purposely brought and cultivated. Officinalis, though, means has a medical purpose. It was cultivated for medicinal purposes in days gone by, at least. Tinctoria, that means used by dyers. When you tint something, you're dyeing it, right? And so tinctoria means used in the dye room. Virens, we did that. Glandulosa. Okay, this is one you might not want to put next to your path because it means it's going to be dotted with sticky glands that secrete a resin, most likely. So you might not want to feel it a lot. Let's see, where was I? Cali is a root for beautiful. And you'll see that used a lot, bella and bellissima. Have you ever seen a movie where somebody's at the opera and at the end they yell, bella, bella, bellissima? It means beautiful, beautiful, most beautiful, right? But if that's on a plant, you could expect it to be pretty showy. Speciosa, spectabilis, and elegans also mean pretty and elegant and showy. So you need to look for those maybe. Gracilis means slender or gracilis. Acuminata, coming to a point. Here's an important ending. Oides. What's oides? Well, and you're going to see that a lot on plant tags. It means looks like whatever came right before that. So that oides ending means it looks like something else. Rugosa means wrinkled. Integra means whole, not divided or lacy or cut. And so you're going to have some things like the silphiums, where some of the leaves on some of those species are very, very divided, and others are not. So that will help you tell which silphium you're getting. We've got Iana and Yancy at the end of a thing mean from. So you could have Virginiense or Canadense, and that means came from Canada or was discovered and named from a specimen in Canada. Quirky, like an oak. Silici, like a willow, and that generally refers not to the shape, but the shape of the leaves, willow-like leaves. So you'll see salicifolia on some of your plants. You can go right out to the nursery and find a salicifolia there, I'm sure. Recta is upright. Punctata means with dots or glands. Usually those dots are some kind of glands. And maculosa just means with patches of color. Well, when I go to the dermatologist, she's busy dictating to her assistant, a 2-centimeter macule, and she means it's a little patch of color. So something with maculosa in the name, especially if you're ordering from a catalog and you're not sure what you're getting, means it's going to be patchy. Some people love variegated plants with patches of color. They think they're really fun. And others just think they look weird and don't like that. So that might be an important distinction for you. Here is the Cephalanthus occidentalis. That is the western buttonbush. Cephalanthus means ball-shaped heads or ball-shaped flowers. Pineapple sage, Salvia elegans. Cicericium bellum, the beautiful blue-eyed grass. Butterlua gracilis, this is a native grass. It's a fun accent for your garden. Look at those slender stalks below the seed heads. They're really slender, right? So that's where the gracilis comes in with this. Side oats grama, Botulua curtipangula. So a curtsy is a little bow to the side, right? Curt means over on the side, pendula means hanging. So this is the grass where things hang off to the side. Curtipendula. It's also our Texas state grass, by the way. You're master naturalist, so that's a factoid you want to give all the kids. Or your master gardeners. Did I say naturalists? I'm sorry. Eryngium yuccifolium. Yucky means like a yucca, folium for leaves. So this is the eringo with leaves like a yucca. Big red sage, Salvia pensteminoides, looks like a penstemon, not a penstemon, it's a salvia. So that oides means looks like a. Manfreda maculosa, this one has patches on it. Calicarpa americana. Americana, it's from the U.S., right? And Calicarpa, beautiful fruit. That's right there in the name. Brown-eyed Susans, Rudbeckia hirta. Hirta means it has fuzzy stems, a little prickly. Ilex decidua, the leaves fall off. Decidua is there in the name. Deciduous trees have their leaves fall off. Ilex vomitoria. Well, we probably don't really have time for that whole story today. It is a good story, and we'll do that another time. But yes, it was used in vomiting rituals. So sometimes there's some history built into the name. Coreopsis grandiflora. My arrows have mysteriously migrated since I left home. But that was grandiflora, large flowered Coreopsis. And compare that to Coreopsis tinctoria, the dyer's Coreopsis that has that extra red and gave a better color in dyed materials. Sawtooth sunflower. We want to get our sunflowers right, and I'll show you why. This is Helianthus. All sunflowers are Helianthus. Grossa serratus. Grossa means big. It just means large. Serratus means teeth. And so it's got big teeth on its leaves. But you do not want to mix this up for Maximilian sunflower or any other sunflower, because in a happy place, it will grow 18 feet tall. And so you want to know which one you're getting, please. All right, how about this one? Angustifolium. You can shout out. Does anybody remember what angustifolium means? Narrow leaves. Good, I heard some. Okay, and I just wanted to show you all these. These aren't really tests. We've got all these different Leotris with all of these different attributes, and some of them are listed in the name. So Leotris spicata makes a nice spike, of course, but most of them do. Leotris pycnostachya makes a dense spike. Punctata means it's got dots on it. And mucronata means it comes to a short, stiff point, and usually that's going to be at the end of the leaves. Leotris estivalis, though, now that could be important. Estivalis, anybody remember what that means? Summer. It's a summer blooming Leotris. Some of these bloom in the fall, some of them bloom in the summer. Leotris aspera is a rough one, and it looks completely different than the others, so that's a cool one, full of these little dots of flowers instead of the one big spike. And then Leotris glandulosa. Glandulosa means it's going to be sticky. All right, and that is the local Leotris that grows on my farm and here in Collin and Denton counties. Just wild. This is one of our local native wild plants without any help or water out there in the wild. And the reason I want to know, am I getting this one? Am I getting another one? Is that this is the one that blooms right when the monarchs come through. And so that one is the Leotris punctata variety mucronata, and it's just right for where we are. So I think that is it for me today. I hope I didn't run over too long. I usually bring a clock with me, so I can avoid that, and I forgot the clock today. I do have one little piece of housekeeping. I have some seeds with me today. They're all native plants. There are two kinds, and these are for donation from the Native Plants Society of Texas Collin County chapter. So these, a suggested donation for the bag with two kinds of milkweed in it would be $5. And for any of these little single packets of seed, 2 for $5 is easy, or 3. And you can, I trust you all. You're all background checked. And so you can make your own change from the change envelope here. All right, thank you very much.
Carol, thank you so much. I learned a ton. I deal with plant labels all the time. Now I know what I'm looking at. So thank you, appreciate it. And I think I learned more Latin today than my son learned in 3 years at school. Yeah. Glenn?
Just a real quick announcement. We've done a great job of advertising this amongst the Master Gardeners. How many of you have seen that we have a scholarship offered? Okay, a few hands didn't go up. So for those of you who didn't raise your hands, there's a scholarship offered, an annual scholarship. For our due date is around July, I think 15th. They need to be in their second year of university or graduate school, and it needs to be something kind of horticulture, agriculture related for us to approve the scholarship. But so far we only have, it's for $2,500, and so far we only have one applicant. So if you know somebody in college who's in a major that you think would apply, and they graduated from a Dallas school, please send them to our website and have them apply. We would love to have 20 or 30 applicants, and we've got one. So, get the news out to anybody you think might be able to help with that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Glenn. Is it a clicker? Okay. Time for the raffle. Everyone have your ticket ready? We've got some great plants today, and these come from Texas Discovery Garden, and they were personally selected by Roseanne Ferguson. Okay, the first one is, I'm just going to call it the last 3 digits, so it's 678. We have a winner. They are behind me over here. And the next one is 697. Woohoo!
Hey, Barbara, this is Lucky Rose.
Okay, and then we... Six, 5, 5. Going once, going twice. Okay, no 6, 5, 5. Six, 8, 5. Going once. Oh, we got a winner? No? Next is 694. Jennifer. Are you guys really in the same row? You should buy some lottery tickets after this.
This is for the lady who had 685.
Okay. So I think we have 4 spoken fors. Thank you. Next is 634. Yay!
Just one more, I think.
Yeah, okay. And lastly, 630. Ooh, Sherry. No, there's one on the floor there.
I'm sorry? But she was one of the winners. I'm one of the winners. I'm sorry.
Oh, I
didn't
thought you
get
said
my-
there was only one left and Sherry's
no,
coming.
I said
Oh,
it's a
sorry.
wonderful plant.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
I will. Okay.
Next month meeting is going to be, I apologize for reading from the slide here. We'll be back here at the Point. It will be Saturday again, not on Thursday. And it will be a potluck with watermelons, So we're excited about that. And we're super excited to be coming back here to CC Young. They've been an awesome host for us, so we greatly appreciate that. And lastly, let's give it up for Sue Smith for organizing all this. Thank you. Okay, and if we could all turn around and take a look at Sue and count down from 3. 3, 2, 1. Have a great day, all. Thank you. It did, yeah.